a couple of ground rules before we get started. Please always identify yourself when you're speaking as an accommodation, and keep yourself on mute and silence your cell phone so there'll be less distractions during the call. And we are starting the meeting at a couple of 1:32 p.m. We get started. Please with that always said, I want to turn it over to my vice chair, Michelle Lee, for roll call.
Hi, everyone. This is Michelle. I am going to be doing roll call, so I'll be calling out your name. All you have to do is say here, present, and also if you wouldn't mind stating if you're with an organization or not, and also a quick visual description just for accessibility. So we'll start with Mary.
I am Mary, and I am here representing myself and blind and visually impaired people just in general, not a particular organization. I'm a white female, about 5 feet tall. I have brown hair, and today I'm wearing a white sweater with a purple shirt, and I'm happy to be here because we need to keep the CTA going.
Thanks, Mary. This is Michelle again. Joe Albritton.
Hi, good afternoon again. This is Joe Albritton. Besides chair of this committee, I'm also an advocate for people with disabilities overall. I'm actually in my living room right now, even though there's a lake right over my shoulder, I guess. And I'm wearing a short sleeve black button-down shirt, and I have a very short haircut, compliments of my wife the other day. So that's me.
Oh, looks good, Joe. This is Michelle again. Next up, Pamela Berman.
I think she was going to be late.
Oh, so I thought, okay, sorry. Thought we've got the, okay, next after Pamela is Doreen Bogus.
Hi, this is Doreen. I'm representing MOPD. Visual description, I'm sitting in my office chair at the field office site. I'm wearing like a gray dress with a bluish greenish cardigan sweater over it, hair back in a ponytail, and again, I'm here representing MOPD and looking forward to the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks. This is Michelle. Next, we have Whitney Hill.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Whitney Hill. I'm representing Sport, not-for-profit, and LCM Architects. Right now, I'm an African-American woman with ear-length brown hair, short, kind of curly, wearing some dangly earrings and a black jacket with a white background behind me.
Thanks, Whitney. This is Michelle again. Next, we have Robin Jones.
Hello, Robin Jones, and I apologize. I'm not on camera. I'm actually in the hospital right now, so I apologize. I'm just using their internet, so it's not very good. So I'm staying off camera because it was too choppy. I was losing people. But my photo is showing there. I am a white female wearing black rimmed glasses, and I have red short hair with a blue denim jacket on and earrings.
This is Michelle. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. And I'm the director of the Great Lakes ADA Center.
Awesome. Thanks, Robin. This is Michelle again. Thanks for dialing in from the hospital. So we appreciate it. Thank you for your time. And then next up, we have
recording in progress.
Oh, got it. Everyone, we're recording.
Sorry about that. This is Mariah. I should have unpaused that a while ago.
No, it's okay. So next up on the list, this is Michelle again. We have Michael Kaiser.
Hi, this is Michael Kaiser. I'm an old white guy who's getting grayer and grayer, mostly white now. And I am sitting in my home office with lots of pictures behind me of my gearhead experiences. And well, you can't see much more than that of me. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, I'm an advocate for children with disabilities.
This is Michelle. Thank you, Michael. And next up is myself. So Michelle Lee, I am here. I am an Asian woman with dark hair that's tied up in a ponytail today, wearing a black turtleneck, sitting in my home office, but you can't tell because I have this really cool visual background or virtual background that is aspirational of like a really nice living room with good furniture. And I actually recently switched organizations. I now am part of the United Spinal Association, and we are an organization that supports people with disabilities, specifically people with spinal cord injuries, which I also have. So happy to be here, looking forward to the meeting. And next up on roll call, we have Howard Wilson. Howard, are you here? Maybe you're on mute.
He's on mute right now.
Howard, I think you're on mute.
This is Mariah. I am attempting to help him unmute.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we can. This is Michelle. Yes. Hi, Howard.
Okay. Even though this is not my first rodeo, even though I made that just made that mistake. My name is Howard Wilson. I'm an African American male. I represent myself. I also am a member of the National Federation of the Blind. And I'm sitting at home right now on my couch in the living room. By 3:15, I will be leaving out, but I will be continuing the Zoom call, but I'll be on my way to judo practice. So I will be on our fine CTA services as I make my way to Old Town in Chicago. Oh, and if anybody's interested in judo, let me know. We do, all are welcome, so just let me know.
Very cool. Thank you. This is Michelle again. Thank you, Howard. That sounds really
You're welcome.
very
You're
cool. And so we do have two absences. Bridget Heyman is excused, as well as Nicholas Robertson, who is excused, or he may be joining late. So those are two absences right now. And then after that, we have Amy Serpi.
Hi, I'm Amy Serpi. I am a Caucasian female of Italian descent. Love my pasta. I'm about 5'2". Right now, I have really long hair. It hasn't been this long since college, I think. And I have my red on. I have my red top on today. I am the manager of ADA compliance programs for CTA, as well as the facilitator for this committee.
Thanks, Amy. This is Michelle again. Next up, Michael Conley.
I'm a white male with brown hair and round glasses. I have on a blue shirt and a red tie, and I'm speaking to you from my office here at 567 West Lake Street in Chicago. So,
awesome. This is Michelle again. Thank you so much, Michael. Happy to always have you here supporting us. And we actually have more than 7 people here, so we do have a quorum. And let me turn it over to Joe for announcements.
Thank you, Michelle. This is Joe again. First, I want to second what Michelle said and thank Robin very much for her dedication of joining us today from the hospital. So thank you, Robin. Hope everything's going to turn out okay. Does anybody have any announcements on behalf of their agency or organization about things that are going on? Just as an example, October is always National Disability Employment Awareness Month. So with that said, does anyone have any announcements?
Yes, I do. It's Pam Berman. Can you hear me?
Yes, Pam. Yes, go ahead, please.
I just want to make sure I wasn't muted. So this is also a Guide Dog Awareness Month, and Guide Dogs for the Blind released a video for transportation training. If anybody is interested in viewing that, it can be seen at guidedogs.com. I could send you a copy of the video, and it's just like a short, very brief 2-minute video geared towards educating the public and bus operators or transit operators on having people with service animals, more specifically guide dogs, with them.
Oh, this is Joe again. That's really cool, Pam. Thanks for sharing that. Do you mind maybe sending the link to Amy and she could send it on to the rest of us?
Absolutely.
I think I have it, Pam.
That's right. Okay, great. Thanks, Amy.
This is Joe again. Any more announcements?
Well, I don't have an announcement, but I have a request. This is Michael Kaiser. if anyone is in need of a manual wheelchair or a motorized collapsible wheelchair, we have several, this we being our family, because we have 2 kids who use them, we have several to donate. So if any agency can use those, you can contact me.
This is Joe again. Thank you very much for that offer. That was very, very nice of you. Yes.
Yes, this is Whitney. I have 2 brief announcements. The first is on behalf of Disability Lead. They have a window that is open until the 15th where they're still accepting applications. For those who don't know, Disability Lead, these to be known as Advancing Leadership Institute. In the spirit of Disability Employment Month, this wonderful initiative looks for professionals in the Chicagoland area who identify with disability, who are looking for mentoring and career building. It's a wonderful program. If you know anyone, please let them know about it. The second brief announcement is on behalf of 3 Arts. 3 Arts is having their awards, and registration, I believe, just opened up. And so once again, if you guys don't know what 3 Arts is, it's a wonderful organization here in Chicago that represents artists, minority artists, women artists, artists within the LGBTQA community, as well as disabled artists. So 2 wonderful organizations, and please keep both of them on your radar.
This is Joe again. Thank you so much, Whitney. That's really great opportunities that you've brought to us. I appreciate it. Any more announcements?
I just need to interject really quickly. Pam, could you please share that link one more time so that I can type that into the chat box for everyone? Let's see, I can unmute her. Got that. So we'll try to get that link for the guide dogs video, and I will post that into the chat for everybody to see once we're able to get that link from Miss Pamela.
Awesome. This is Michelle. One last announcement, maybe, or brief announcement. The United Spinal Association is having their virtual gala and community event, and it's free for everybody. Their mission is building an inclusive world, and it's going to be really exciting. There's really cool guests. For example, like Lin-Manuel Miranda is going to be like making a cameo. Ali Stroker, she was a wheelchair user who was like a Tony Award winner. It's gonna be nice. It's free. You can register at unitedspinal.org, and it is on November 10th at 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. Mark your calendars.
Sounds great, Michelle. Thank you for sharing. Announcements?
This is Robin. Yeah, this is Robin. With the Great Lakes ADA Center, we have 2 sessions this month geared towards COVID that people might be interested in related to employment. Tomorrow, the 13th, tomorrow, yes. At 1 o'clock, we have Ask an ADA Professional, which is an open Q&A on COVID-19 and the use of masks and vaccinations, if anybody's interested. And the registration for that is at ada-audio.org. And then next Tuesday on the 19th, we have our ADA audio conference session on long haul COVID and
This is Mariah. Sorry, one moment. We're having some audio issues. Amy, I'll ask you to unmute, and for everybody else, I will ask you to please, if you're able to, remain muted so that we can avoid some of those audio issues. We were getting some overlap there. Amy, you should be able to be heard again.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I was just going to say, for those that are using, reading devices that are audio, just kind of be careful because we can hear that if it's on.
Sorry, I don't know if did you get any of mine or did I get cut off? I don't know what happened. This is Robin.
I would give your email again.
Yeah, if you're interested, we have 2 sessions on COVID and employment. One tomorrow, one next Tuesday. www.ada-audio.org. free to the public.
Great, thank you, Robin. This is Joe again. Any other announcements from anyone? If not, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Lee to take us through the approval of the minutes.
This is Michelle. Thanks, Joe. So the meeting minutes were sent to members prior to the meeting for review. Does anyone have any changes or amendments? And if not, I'm asking for a motion to approve the July 12th meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve the July 12th meeting minutes.
Okay. And
Who was that?
Michael, right?
That's correct.
Michael, motion's approved. Do I have a second?
Second, this is Whitney.
Thanks, Whitney. Everyone in favor, say aye.
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 And anybody abstaining or abstentions? No. And anyone not approving? No. Okay, so motion passes. And then I will turn it over to Joe for a public comment.
Thank you, Michelle. This is Joe again for public comment. Now, just as a reminder, public comment should be kept to a maximum of 15 minutes or less. And I'm going to ask Amy Serpy if there are any public comments that she would like to present on behalf of others.
Yes,
Amy?
I would. Yep. Thank you, Joe. This is Amy, and I do have a public comment from Laura Salzman, and I will read it in its entirety as it was sent to me. My name is Laura Salzman. I am the Transportation Policy Analyst for Access Living. I am here to discuss a proposed plan for a Transit Ambassador program on behalf of the Transportation Equity Network, a coalition of 40 community groups and organizations in Chicago and suburban Cook County, working on embedding racial equity and mobility justice into transportation. This proposed Transit Ambassador program would help people with disabilities in a holistic manner. With lower ridership during COVID, there has been an increased perception of safety issues on transit and widespread news coverage of public safety incidents. The perception that transit is unsafe discourages people from using it. There is concern that there may be permanent decreased ridership if people do not feel safe on buses and trains. This concern regarding physical safety can be felt particularly strongly for people with physical disabilities who have more difficulty leaving cars or buses in a quick fashion or without assistance in an emergency. However, an increase in law enforcement or other armed guard presence is no cure-all. Transit riders are disproportionately likely to have had negative interactions with law enforcement and fear an escalated response if their behavior is seen as threatening or abnormal. The latter of which is felt particularly strongly by people with conditions that lead to behavior and or thought processes that are considered atypical. Regretfully, law enforcement in Chicago simply does not have a reputation or a history of de-escalating. Consequently, any failure to de-escalate would put those with disabilities at even more risk. Transit ambassadors would be trained in how to help people with disabilities of all kinds. Having an additional staff member who is specifically trained to assist people with physical disabilities could make them feel more secure while navigating stations. Transit ambassadors would also be trained in how to de-escalate situations that may seem on the way towards disruption and include, but are not limited to, people with psychiatric disabilities. In these instances, it is even more imperative to have someone who is trained to make an appropriate assessment of the condition a person is in and de-escalate when necessary. Further, a recent report by Trans Center called Safety for All provides insights into the potential of reimagining safety on trains. quote, "Since simply increasing police presence can generate additional risks for many riders, transit agencies need to shift resources toward public safety programs that acknowledge that a safe system can mean different things to different people. More holistic approaches that make use of unarmed customer service and social welfare personnel would be used to reduce interactions between riders and the police while building better support for vulnerable riders," end quote. This is why we wholeheartedly support the creation of a transit ambassador program on CTA. We want people to feel welcome onto trains and buses, safe, not over-policed or in fear. An ambassador program staffed by unarmed personnel explicitly trained on de-escalation measures has seen success in San Francisco on Bay Area Rapid Transit. And in the spring of 2020, the Los Angeles Metro Board of Directors unanimously approved a motion funneling $40 million towards the creation of a transit ambassador program. The concept of such a program is consistent with where the state of Illinois is moving, a natural extension of the work that Access Living and our allies achieved with the passage of the Community Emergency Services and Supports Act, or CESA, that's CESSA, signed into law last month. CESA mandates a non-law enforcement response for people in crisis throughout Illinois. We are asking CTA to fund and develop during its next budget cycle a transit ambassador program with people who are trained in how to deal with disabilities and de-escalation. We are asking for support from the ADA Advisory Committee. We need a program that welcomes all who want to ride transit in Chicago. This would be an eligible and very appropriate use of COVID-related funds, so this program could be started immediately. The members of the Transportation Equity Network would be eager to partner with CTA to help shape this program. Thank you very much for your attention. And again, that's from Laura Salzman at Access Living. That's it.
This is Joe. Again, Amy, thank you for reading that. Just to quickly jump ahead for a second, perhaps that could be under a new agenda item if we want to hear more about it as an advisory committee. And maybe we can reach out to Bridget Heyman, who's also on our committee, and the communications contact at Access Living to tell us more about it at the next meeting potentially. So with that said, I want to turn it over to Michelle Lee now to walk us through the presentations by CTA staff.
This is Michelle. Thanks, Joe. So first, we are going to hear about the Red Purple Modernization Program, and we have Jeff Wilson, Director. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and quick visual description, Jeff, that would be amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Wilson. I'm the Director of Government Community Relations for CTA, specifically the RPM Red Purple Modernization Project. Behind me, you see, I look like I'm in a virtual office. I'm in an office, but that is our virtual office. I'm actually sitting in my kitchen at the kitchen island. I am a 5'8" white male with what was once red hair, now brown hair, quickly turning to gray. I have glasses on and I'm wearing a shirt that is, I can't tell you what this color is. I'm trying to figure it out myself. I want to say it's some kind of blue, but it's blue checked, perhaps. If anybody on the panel sees something different, please let me know. But I just yanked it out of the closet, no pun intended. So without any further ado, I'm going to give my briefing on the Red Purple Modernization Project. As many as you probably know and have already heard, last week on the 6th, Wednesday the 6th, we had a little incident at Bryn, Mawr, where the drill rig, piece of equipment fell off the tracks near Bryn Mawr and fell into like a parking lot area adjacent to a building and into some utility poles. Thank goodness nobody was injured. But as you can imagine, there's lots of damage. And the contractor right now is putting together a plan in order to disassemble the big piece of the drill rig itself and haul it out of there, keeping in mind safety of the residents and the workers and pedestrians in and around the area. So that is what we are doing most of this week. And then Walsh Floor, the contractor, will be presenting the way they're going to get it out of there. So that should happen by the end of this week. If anybody has any questions about the incident, now would be a good time to ask, or I can wait till after I give the rest of the presentation. It's up to you, Joe and Mariah. What's easier for you?
Actually, this is Joe. Jeff, I do have a quick question about that. I don't know
Yeah,
about
Joe.
the whole area. I haven't seen the whole area and what it looks like as far as what you're doing with the rig now. But are you putting some kind of precautionary barriers around so that people won't run into it, or is it set up like that, or is it not impacted on the sidewalks or anything like that?
Yeah, so Joe, if you remember when we did our walkthrough, it's actually south of Bryn Mawr about, I'd say 300 feet. It's in that empty lot. But when the drill fell off the track, it actually it went into the alleyway and adjacent parking lot to the building into some utility poles. So it didn't go on to Bryn Mawr, but it is approximately 300 feet south of Bryn Mawr. It's resting upside down, partially in the alley, partially in the lot itself. So yeah, so it's immediately south of Bryn Mawr, Joe.
Okay, great. That paints a better picture for me. I appreciate it.
And Joe, I'll send you. I can send you some pictures in the description of what the information that we provided, like the alderman's office.
This is Joe. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, Jeff.
Yeah, no worries, Joe. If anybody else has any questions? Great, so I'll get right to it. So first of all, I do want to thank everybody on the panel for letting me cut in front of you. Thank you so much. I have to run back up to Bryn Mawr actually and deal with constituent outreach stuff this afternoon. So thank you very much. I appreciate you. So as you know, the Red Purple Modernization project is divided into two sections. We have the Red Purple bypass area, which is basically Belmont north to Cornelia. And that's called the RPB, Red Purple bypass. And that's where we're building the bridge to desegregate the red, purple, and brown line tracks so that the brown line can go over red and purple seamlessly without having red and purple wait. As you all know right now, it's almost like having a red light in the middle of the Kennedy Expressway. That's the best way to describe it. So we are eliminating that by building this bridge that will allow the brown line trains, excuse me, to run over the red and purple tracks. So right now we're in the process of building the temporary track for brown line, basically just immediately north of Belmont on the west side of the current tracks. We're building a temporary track for the brown line service. So that's continuing right now. And that should be by the end of 2021, we should be done with all that. Then we move into the North Mainline service, which is still part of the Red Purple bypass area. And this is the section between basically Roscoe and Cornelia, where we are straightening out the tracks so that the train doesn't do a little jog to the left and jog to the right. I'm starting to laugh because the sign language interpreting just doing my little dance. So thank you for that. So that is the North Mainline service. Now we're going to continue up north to the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr modernization area. And this is where we're rebuilding 4 stations. That's Lawrence, Argyle, Berwyn, and Bryn Mawr. These are basically 100-year-old stations. As Joe and Amy can contest, they're in pretty bad shape from when we did our walkthrough. So we are demolishing those and rebuilding them to 21st century modern, fully accessible stations. Right now, the two stations that are closed that we took out of service, Lawrence and Berwyn, have been completely demolished. And the other two stations, they're still functioning. That's Argyle and Bryn Mawr. Those two stations are in the process of being demolished while we still operate full service through both those stations. So that's ongoing at this point. Also, with the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr area, we are done with the track demolition, and we are ongoing with the embankment and viaduct. There's 11 viaducts have to demolish and rebuild, and that's ongoing as well. That is pretty much it in a nutshell. I was trying to keep it short and sweet per Amy's instruction. I wanted to have some kind of conciliatory thing towards the people that I cut in front of. So without any further ado, if there are anybody any questions about the Red Purple Modernization project? Hearing none.
This is Michelle. I guess
want
not.
to say, I want to say thank you, everybody. I really do appreciate your time. Great to see everybody on the board. I appreciate you as well. Please feel free to reach out to me at jwilson@transitchicago.com if you have any questions or concerns.
This is Michelle. Thanks so much, Jeff. We always appreciate your updates. So and appreciate your time. Good luck with the
Thank you very much.
situation.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye. So next up, this is Michelle again. We have a Pedway signage project, the interim Pedway signage project kind of a update. And we have Jason Byernet from CDOT. If Jason, are you here? Can you give a quick introduction with a visual description for accessibility, please? And then let us know what you got going on.
Sure, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jason Byernet with the Chicago Department of Transportation. I'm a white male. I am wearing a green and white checkered shirt, short brown hair. I am in the CDOT offices on the 9th floor of 2 North LaSalle. I'm at my standing desk, and there is a office environment in the background. I do have a presentation, so I'll go ahead and share my screen, and I'll be sure to walk through the visuals on the slide. Let's see here. Oop. Okay. Let's see here. Am I sharing my screen?
This is Michelle. It disappeared.
Disappeared? Okay. I'll try it again.
There we go.
Okay, great. I will put it in presentation mode. Okay. So the Chicago Department of Transportation oversees and helps coordinate the Pedway System, which for those of you who may not be familiar, it's an underground pedestrian system that connects a lot of the buildings and transit stations in the loop and around the loop. We're focused on the main stem, which runs from the Thompson Center to the Metra Millennium Station. So the Thompson Center would be kind of the western extent, and the Millennium Station on the eastern extent. Right now, I'm showing a slide that shows the different focus areas. CDOT is working on several different initiatives to improve the Pedway. One is an infrastructure modernization effort. This is a longer term effort for physical improvements to the Pedway. We're going to target improvements specifically under Michigan Avenue. It's the oldest part, and it's in the greatest need of repair. We'll also be looking at ADA improvements throughout the Pedway. So that's making sure that elevators are working and that accessible ramps have the correct specifications, railings, things like that. Another part of the improvement is a comprehensive wayfinding modernization effort. The last time CDOT did a signage improvement project. It was a little over 20 years ago. And the technology and techniques for wayfinding have advanced a lot since then. And so this longer multi-year effort is a couple years down the road. But we're going to be doing something in the meantime, and that's specifically what I'm here to walk through today. So we're calling our kind of interim headway signage improvement, and we have been working closely with the Environmental Law and Policy Center on stakeholder engagement, and me coming to talk with you all this afternoon as part of that stakeholder engagement. And I'll be going into a little bit more detail on the different aspects of this interim pilot signage project, really looking to build on the existing signage, but improve upon it in this kind of 1 to 2 year gap before we get the long-term project underway. Another aspect we're looking at to improve the Pedway is overall programming and governance. The Pedway in terms of owners is a patchwork. It's a patchwork of government-owned segments of the Pedway. For example, in the city-county building, that's if you're in the main lobby and you take the escalators down to like connect to the Daily Center, or if you've ever had the privilege of being married in the marriage court, it's over there as well. Or there's private segments of the Pedway, such as Block 37, which the city has a 24/7 easement to connect the red and blue line stations through there. So it's a private space, but the city has a easement through that area. So I've changed slides, and this slide shows an image of the main stem, a map of the main stem of the Pedway, as I described, going from the Thompson Center in the west over to Metro Millennium Station. So with this interim signage project, our goals are kind of a quick hit approach. Our budget is zero. So we have really relied on a lot of the expertise from others at CTA. We've been working with Tony Capoletta, Victor Ramirez, and Kevin Stansel at the Regional Transit Authority. So we really have relied on our partners at other agencies to assist us in doing this. And we're going to do the fabrication through our Department of Asset and Information Services. They have a print shop in City Hall, and so they're going to be doing printing of the signs for us using our CDOT's existing budget for that. So it's really kind of a scrappy approach to make as good of an effort, as good of an improvement that we can with the limited resources that we have. I've switched slides now, and this slide talks about how we really relied on CTA and RTA sign standards. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel in terms of font, icons, size of font, things like that. We wanted to borrow from tried and true and existing wayfinding that exists already in Chicago. So for CTA, that's wayfinding that is in rail stations. RTA has a regional wayfinding program. They have signage that exists at major rail stations, Union Station, LaSalle Street Station, and that also extends into the public way and helps direct people from those train stations to CTA bus transfer locations, such as the Union Station transfer facility, things like that. So that's kind of where we borrowed a lot from. We're keeping in terms of our colors and overall look, we're keeping the signage similar to the existing Pedway signage that's there today, and that's kind of a dark blue and gold, kind of light gold color. So we've maintained that just to have as much consistency as possible. I've switched slides now. I'm just showing it kind of like a broad overview of some of the Cta Science Standards. So this has the specific colors that Cta uses for each of its rail lines. So for example, there's just images showing the specific Pantone specifications for the red line, green line, brown line, the other rail lines, and then the iconography. So this has little icons of buses in various variations, and also the Cta L train icon in various variations. Kind of some have a border, some don't. Some have a black background, others don't. And I switched slides now. And here is another even broader stroke at the more comprehensive RTA regional wayfinding system. They actually have a document called the Interagency Transit Passenger Information Design Standards Manual that just came out last year. And so we really relied heavily on all of the work that went into that. So we have no shame. We copied. We copied a lot of it because we know it's gone through all of the considerations to make sure that the icons and the standards are as good as they can be. So now I've changed slides again, and so we went from kind of CTA design standards to RTA design standards, and now I'm showing the culmination of that within the interim Pedway signage. And so similar to kind of a broad stroke, showing just kind of generic features of the interim Pedway signage. You can see the dark blue and gold as kind of the existing colors that we're carrying over, and also the icons that we borrowed or copied from CTA and RTA's design standards. And so and in terms of kind of the placement and everything like that, use kind of the similar practices to the other wayfinding. So now I've switched slides. I'm going to run through some examples of where we're going to place signs within the Pedway, focusing in areas closest to the red line and blue line stations. So I'm showing an image. This is as you're walking from, I believe this is the blue line station into block 37. We're going to place, it's a vinyl applied sign that will go right on the brick on the right side of the door going into block 37. Some of the features of the sign, every sign will have a banner at the top that says Pedway. So that as you're walking through the Pedway, you know that what that sign is there for. It has a kind of a pin drop that gives you exactly your exact location at that point of the sign. And then we're calling them kind of North Stars. So the North Stars are in the yellow print, and they call out major destinations through the Pedway. So the goal is to try to get people navigating through the Pedway system, orientate them to North Stars, which can be the transit stations or like City Hall, the major destinations. And then as you walk through the Pedway, it's kind of like what's next. So for this example, your North Star is you're walking towards Millennium Park. Your next stop, kind of next segment of the Pedway is block 37, then the CTA Red Line, then Macy's, then Heritage Shop. And as you move through, block 37 would drop off, CTA Red Line would move up, and so forth. So it's kind of like a trail of breadcrumbs system. I've switched slides now. I'm showing an example throughout the Pedway. There's a series of fire doors between the different segments. And the fire doors actually have door jams kind of like right in the middle of them. There might be a set of doors to the right of it, a set of doors to the left, and then there's about this 18 to 20 inch door jam right in the middle. And so we want to use that real estate as people are walking through. Hopefully it's kind of at a lower height. It's right at kind of eye level as people are coming through this area for quick reference. I'm now showing another example. This is in the Blue Line station, and some of the exits are really hard to kind of find because they're around the corner. So this is an example of a sign that we'll place near a stairwell to exit to Randolph Street. And we're also calling out and using the elevator icon to make sure that accessible entrances, exits are clearly marked in signage as well. I've switched slides. I'm showing another example of a door jam sign. This is leading into, I believe this is leading from block 37 to the Blue Line, I think. I'm showing just another example. This one is in the Red Line station into block 37. This one has the example of the signage pointing out there's an elevator right to the right of the sign, and then calling that out. And wherever there is an elevator throughout the Pedway, we'll have that same iconography of showing the elevator, making sure that we call that out. This is an example of I'm showing an existing sign. The Pedway symbol is kind of logo is kind of like a compass. It is kind of an elaborate logo. It's fairly detailed. It looks almost nautical in its motif. We'll visit that as part of the comprehensive wayfinding overhaul, but for now we're keeping it. And we're going to add the Pedway banner with the pin drop of your exact location to the existing wayfinding to help kind of stitch both our interim signage improvement along with the existing signage. So those are all the examples of the kind of the signage placement that I have. I've switched slides now, and I'm going to walk through the next steps. So we're targeting installing these signs before the holiday shopping season kicks off. So hopefully later this month or very early in November. The great thing about this vinyl application is that it's we can, if we get any feedback, if we need to make improvements over time, we will be able to very quickly turn around any additions or clarifications along the way. We're also interested in doing a feedback survey, getting people's opinion about this, the interim signage. Hopefully people, notice it and provide feedback, and all the lessons learned from this kind of interim pilot project will incorporate as we move forward for the comprehensive wayfinding. So that is it for my presentation, and I am happy to take any questions anyone may have.
Hi, my name is Whitney Hill. I am the chair of the Wayfinding Subcommittee at CTA, and I was wondering if you guys have done any user testing before you're going to start implementing this. or how that has kind of looked on your end?
Yeah, so we have worked primarily with the stakeholders, property owners, folks that have building facility responsibilities, just to explain kind of like what we'd like to do and where we would place the signs. In terms of like user group feedback, that's something that will absolutely be part of our long-term comprehensive wayfinding project. And that's something that I will make a note of to make sure that when we do get there, that I can reach back out and we can make sure that that your subcommittee can be included as part of kind of user feedback or kind of that kind of like test case example, especially if we have like different motifs and we can get kind of feedback on which direction is better or preferred.
That would be great, because I really like what you guys are doing, but looking at some of the example photos in my other job, and I'm an accessibility specialist, so some of the placement of some of the signage kind of concerns me, because I'm concerned about if there's enough clear floor space to view the signage, if someone needs to view it, and there was a sign over a handrail, and so someone needed to use the handrail, then another person needed to view the signage, especially intently, if there's a lot of information on there. I have a lot of concerns about that. And then like even on the jam, I'm thinking of pre-COVID Chicago, when during rush hour, there's tons of people going back and forth. But I'm thinking of people who like the contrast in the colors is great, but I'm thinking, if someone needs to spend extra time to fully comprehend all the information, being at that location might be very problematic because there might be too much, traffic for them to really take everything in, assess, especially on like an accessibility standpoint. And you mentioned that this was being, printed and there wasn't a lot of budget and everything on it. And so I was wondering if there was kind of a secondary like aspect of the wayfinding with how much information that's being conveyed, like if there is another location where you can get the same type of information, like a know before you go, like kind of situation where before you even get into the Pedway, which is windowless and very, straight, left, right. If someone who has difficulty navigating that, if there is a way for them to better assess all that new information and wayfinding you're putting out there.
Thanks. Yeah, that's all really, really good feedback, and absolutely things that we've struggled with as we navigated the interim signage improvements. We have done walkthroughs with MOPD. I think they share the concern about the signage placement and height, and also that's very good note that the Pedway is a place of movement, and so if we do place a sign in like near the doorway and people are moving, people may want to, they don't want to impede other people from walking, but they also want to read the sign. And so how can we kind of accommodate both needs of people who are looking, as they're going, but then other people, they need to take a second look and kind of rethink their steps and take some more time with the sign. So I'm going to bring those points back to our team and see what we can do to consider those points. And the know before you go is a really good point as well. I'm wondering, I think I'll bring that back to the team, and I'm wondering if we can take the information that we've compiled so far and maybe compile it into like a one-page sheet or something where and we can put it on our website, and maybe we can circulate it on social media, something like that, to go along with the interim signage that would go up. So that's a really helpful idea. I'm going to take that back with me. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. And like I mentioned, like you said, we're always the wayfinding subcommittee is always here if or when you guys ever want to do a little bit more user testing. We have a group of very eager subcommittee members who have a lot of different experience in their own right, but are very willing to get out there in the field to actively, kind of look at some of this.
Okay. And maybe once we get the signs up, we can go out as a group, and basically you can tell us everything that we did wrong and the things that we can right. We can make adjustments, we can print additional signs or move signs. I think that would be really beneficial. So I'll bring that back again to the team, and we'll take all of that into advisement, not only for this, but then also keeping that in mind as we develop the scope for the long-term improvement project. That's all really good stuff, and we want to make sure that we capture that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we are more than happy to help wherever we can. Thank you.
This is Michelle. Thank you, Jason, for your presentation. Super informative. Couple of questions. What is like the timeline for the actual, because it's interim, right? What's like the timeline for the actual signage, and will that include more tactile stuff like Braille? And will there be a budget for that? That's my first question, but I have a few more. So
okay. Okay, I'll answer that one. Yes, for the long-term improvement, we want the best in terms of accessibility, not only in the signage, but also thinking about how the design of the pedway can be improved as well. So absolutely, that's going to be part of the scope, and also looking at the potential technology that can supplement wayfinding or go along with traditional physical wayfinding. So the potential for an accessible Pedway app that can give audio or something like that. I am not an expert in that area, but we've heard that, and it's absolutely something that is going to be part of the scope for us to explore.
Awesome. So another follow-up question, this is Michelle again. Will there be like sort of an advisory panel composed of people with disabilities in the design process? Because, like I hear what you're saying, you want to bring a group together and like walk through, but your sign's already up, like it'd be faster and easier and more efficient if the people with disabilities are kind of included every step of the way, instead of just like, oh, here are the signs we put up, are they okay? Not to say that that's, obviously you have your own timelines, but it would be nice to have not just stakeholder engagement be at the back end of things, but more along the process.
Sure. Yeah. No, I absolutely understand that, and it's we, through our stakeholder engagement, obviously with our sister department with MOPD, we've been working with them. We've been working on just the interim pilot project for about a year and a half. So we've been working with MOPD throughout, and it was actually Lori Dittman who, when we were having the engagement with her, mentioned CTA's this committee, and so that's how I kind of got connected. So I think if we were able to make the connection earlier on, of course, I think we could have had better coordination. But moving forward, I really am, I really want the right level of engagement so that we can get it right. And that's absolutely going to be our goal for the long-term improvement, and looking to learn a lot from this kind of interim pilot project so that we can get the long-term upgrade spot on.
For sure. This is Michelle. One last question. I guess kind of more nitty gritty, but I love the Pedway. I use it all the time. I used to work at the Aon Center and would try to navigate the Pedway. But, you know, I know that each part is not accessible. For example, I know you said Millennium Station is like the east part of your interim, but I know that Millennium Station has a bit of stairs that go up to the Prudential Center and there's no elevator. And, you know, like in a lot of places, there aren't elevators. So I'm wondering if on the signs you could include no elevator, because, you know, I'm always searching for one. And even like having an elevator sign is also important for the CTA stations. So for example, the Blue Line station in the Pedway there is not accessible. And it would be nice to have like maybe just a line through the elevator, like, you know, not accessible, or like a wheelchair. No, just so I don't waste my time going through the station to try to find the train and then not be able to access it. So I guess just like having more accessibility stuff in terms of like wheelchair access would be helpful.
Yeah, that's a really, I think we focused on highlighting where the elevators are, and that can be helpful for even if you're at the Blue Line and you need to get to street level. Our signs would direct you to block 37 with the elevator symbol there. So there would be at least another way nearby where you have that accessibility, but it's the dead ends, like where if you know we think through the decision points and you know you're at a fork in the road, you can go left or right, but right, if you don't know that you want to go right, but if you don't know that there's not an accessible exit to street level, you don't want to go that way. It's going to be a waste of your time. But you could have gone left, gotten to an elevator, and you know maybe not be at your final destination, but it gets you closer to that. So I think we can think through those decision points, and I'll bring that back to the team as well on how we want to clarify those decision points within the signage. It gets tricky, and there's other considerations. For example, we know there in the Macy's segment of the Pedway, there is an elevator that gets you up kind of like a half bank upstairs, but that elevator needs to be replaced, and you know it gets fixed, and a couple days later it's back out of service. And so, you know, is it better for us to direct people to Macy's so that you know folks can use the elevators that we know are going to be in good working condition, or do we direct people to that part of the Pedway where we know that elevator needs to be replaced, and we don't want to send people there only to be disappointed. So we're definitely mindful of all of that, and I'll take that back to the team and see if we first if we have those decision points kind of down with the elevator locations, and then if we need to go further.
This is Michelle. Thank you. Just because I know, for example, if I was a tourist or something, I wouldn't know that off the top of my head that Blue Line station is not wheelchair accessible. So just to have a wheelchair and like a slash through it would be helpful. You know, just don't go there. Okay, you know, don't even try. But yeah, thank you for all that. And also, if anyone else has questions, I'll turn it over.
This is Mike, and I have a question. And that is about the composition of your team and whether there are any people with disabilities on the team.
I mean, I can't speak, completely. At least from my perception, I don't think anyone has a physical disability. We did work with Joe, and his last name escapes me, from MOPD before he left. Now we're working with Kevin, but MOPD has done a lot of audits, accessibility audits in the Pedway, and we do have that information and material, that we want to incorporate in our physical improvements to the Pedway. But I don't believe anyone on our immediate team has a disability.
Well, I asked the question because to kind of echo what I think Michelle said, and that is that it's really important, I think, for you to have guidance from people who have actually having the experience of a disability and and working with you to make the modifications that are helpful, as opposed to doing it after the fact.
Absolutely, I understand that, and I hear that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Jason, this is Joe. First, thank you very much for your detailed presentation. It was very helpful. I have a few things. First, or can you send us this presentation? Is that possible?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Amy has a copy of this, and I think
I can send it.
Okay.
And this is Amy. I'll send it to everybody if that's okay with you, Brian.
This is Joe. Okay, thank you, Amy. Also, as I want to stress, as my colleagues reiterated, that please use this committee as a source going forward, because we have a lot of talented people that can provide a lot of really good input. And I can also give a testimonial about that Pedway, having worked at City Hall for many years, that when you get to especially the Block 37 area, it's really crazy, like at rush hour time going through those doors. So having signs close to them for people to stop and read could actually be quite hazardous now that I think about it. But that's just some observation that I had made. And just one last quick thing. I think the name you were looking for earlier, Joe from MOPD, was Russo before he left working with. So thanks for your time today.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. And yes, that the movement is something that we contemplated, but I don't think necessarily really drilled down on. But I think that's something that I'm going to take back and for us to consider and make sure that. And I think that the Know Before You Go is a really, potentially a really good resource. And I'm just talking out loud, but perhaps we could have that Know Before You Go kind of one pagers that available in like pockets next to the Pedway signs, so that people can kind of take them and have them with them as they go through the Pedway. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible, or I'm just thinking litter possible, people just grabbing them and like throwing them everywhere, we'll have to think through that. But at least having it available on our website, and then making sure that we circulate that via social media to get awareness about that out, I think can be another supplement to that, so that people don't feel like their only option is to kind of be in a passageway looking at the sign that's there.
This is Michelle. Quick suggestion as I was thinking. Perhaps using the QR codes, like a QR code where you could link to that page would be great. Because, in this day and age, nobody wants to touch anything. And it's nice everyone has their phone, they can scan and maybe link to a more hopefully an accessible PDF that you could read easily, that would direct people to more information if they need it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
And this is Whitney. I just want to also kind of like state that, or just kind of like reinforce too, that trying to look at all variables of disability as much as you can will be great. The ADA, is very much about like a lot of physical limitations as well as visual concerns. But there's a lot of room left to be said about like mental health and how other, type of disabilities might process. So, just if you do, because as you were talking about like possible, going to an app or, more electronic viewpoint, that is a lifeline for a lot of people within the disabled community. So, when you do start going through the process of getting feedback and everything, I highly encourage you to try to get as good of a pool of people with various types of disabilities to include in your feedback. It's all going to be incredibly helpful for you. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that note.
This is Michelle. Any more questions for Jason or comments? Well, with that, Jason, thank you so much for your time today and presenting to us. We are clearly a very engaged group. We love the Pedway. we want to ensure the success, especially in the winter when, for me in my wheelchair, it's very hard to navigate the streets of Chicago. So Pedway is probably sometimes the only way for me to be able to get around. So we appreciate your work and hopefully, invite you to come back again sometime soon when there's updates. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for the really valuable feedback. This was really beneficial. So I feel like I got more than I presented. So thank you very much.
Thank you again. This is Michelle. So next up on the agenda, we have COVID and ridership updates, and we have Molly Poppy here today. Molly, would you introduce yourself and give us a little presentation update?
Yeah, hi, Molly Poppy. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for the CTA. I am a white female, young, coming to you live from my dining table. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about where we are in response to COVID and some of the different initiatives that we've launched since the last time we spoke. And then I know Elsa Gutierrez and Mike Connolly are on, and after I speak, I'll turn it over to them to have them talk through ridership and how we are recovering from a ridership perspective from COVID. So just to start, the last time I spoke to the ADA Advisory Committee, I talked about our When You're Ready, We're Ready campaign, which is a sort of multifaceted marketing campaign that we've done to encourage individuals to come back to transit. And just wanted to give you an update on some of the different components of the When You're Ready, We're Ready campaign, and also about some of the mask mandates and where we are in response to sort of safety initiatives from COVID. So first things first, the federal mask mandate does remain in place. The federal mask mandate does require that all riders and employees wear a mask on public transit, so on CTA buses, trains, and indoor facilities through January 18 of 2022. Initially, it was supposed to expire in September. The federal government did make a decision to extend that. We do continue to enforce the mask mandate. We continue to have audio announcements on buses and trains. We have visual announcements as well. We have signage on the external windows of vehicles as well as internally inside vehicles, and also on our CAD ABL on the announcement screen on the bus. We also have that masks are required. Those audio announcements are happening every about 7 to 15 minutes. And then the signs, we have the external signs on about 1,600 vehicles. So we do have, and then we also have 3 to 4 signs on every bus and every train. So we do have pretty wide coverage of the mask mandate, and we do continue to actively engage with our customers around the mask mandate, both when they're on our system and then also in social media. And then we also do continue to offer the free face masks on bus and train. We have provided 5 million masks, over 5 million masks to date to customers. We do know that those masks are running out throughout the day and that we do need to continue to replenish them. So we are continuously working to try to replenish those disposable face masks that you find on buses and at train stations. And we're continuing to work to try to make sure that those remain full. Additionally, another sort of safety measure that we've taken in response to COVID is in early September, CTA did announce a policy that all CTA employees must be fully vaccinated for COVID-19. Employees have till November 1 of this year to comply, and they would upload their proof of vaccination to our internal employee portal. We do provide some exceptions for the mandate. for religious or sincerely held belief or medical or disability, and they would go through an internal process that we have set up there. So we do have an employee vaccine mandate going through, very similar to what the city of Chicago has done, the US military, United Airlines, and the federal government has in place as well. But it is important to note that CTA does not have a testing in lieu of option. We do require that employees get fully vaccinated for COVID-19. Additionally, we've also asked that all of our vendors and their employees that are coming on property be vaccinated as well. We think it's important, and we know that our employees regularly interact with our vendors. And so we do ask that our vendors are vaccinated as well, and they will submit a certification to the agency regarding that their employees that are coming on CTA property are vaccinated. So we do continue to work through that. On the sort of promotion and returning riders to transit, we know all of those safety measures, knowing that our employees are vaccinated, the face masks, those are all very important to get individuals back on transit. But we also did launch some promotional fare changes at the beginning of summer to try to further encourage individuals to come back to transit. So in right around Memorial Day, we did launch 3 changes to our pass products. We reduced the 1-day pass, which was $10. We reduced that to $5. We reduced the 3-day pass product, which was $20. We reduced that to $15. And then we also changed the 7-day CTA only pass. We reduced that from $28 to $20. And what we have actually found with that is really good success in individuals switching from pay per use to that pass. And what we know when individuals are on a pass, they ride more. We actually found that individuals that are utilizing the promotional passes, they've increased their rides by 70%. So looking at the 7 weeks pre-pass promotion and then the 7 weeks post-pass promotion, we saw a significant increase in individuals riding the system and riding more under that pass. We've actually delivered over 10 million rides with individuals on that pass throughout the summer. And we did a survey to understand from those riders what their opinions were of the pass and what sort of got them to buy the pass. And what we found is that 43% of survey respondents reported that they rode a lot more using the pass. So we saw in the evidence and the data that people are riding more. And then we also heard from survey respondents and that pass did make them ride a little bit more. And we also heard that from 12% of survey respondents said they would have used a different mode of transportation if the passes weren't reduced. So we really found that those passes were getting people to ride more and also getting individuals back on the system. Now, I know all of you are familiar, those 3 passes are not the only pass products that we have. And so while we have extended those promotional pass products through November 25th, we also are looking at our remaining pass products and our remaining pay-per-use charges and looking for other opportunities to further promote and encourage individuals to come back to the system. And so as we roll out our 2022 budget, which will be very soon, we plan to also discuss planned promotional changes or additional changes to our fare structure as part of that budget. Those are really the main pieces since the last time I spoke to you all that we've done. I think the promotional fare changes, we've seen good success with those. We've definitely seen that it is helping to encourage ridership. We do know that there's some more space there. And what I think we've also learned is, I think we all thought September was going to be a rush for everybody coming back to the office. But the Delta variant and some of the other changes that have happened, we didn't necessarily see a rush back to transit in September. We continue to see a sort of steady ridership growth, and I'll let Elsa and Mike Connolly get into a little bit more detail on that. But I do know the last time I spoke to you, I sort of said we were planning for September, we were planning for a post-Labor Day bounce, if you will. And unfortunately, I think the Delta variant and just some other sort of issues around the pandemic did sort of prevent a significant bump in that September ridership. So I can take any questions on what we're doing in response to COVID, and then I can turn it over to Elsa and Mike to talk through ridership, if that's okay.
I have a question. This is Doreen from MOPD. I wanted some clarification on the enforcement of the mask mandate. I am aware of the announcements, but I have heard from others. Well, first I had heard on the news a couple times that mask compliance is somewhat lower than expected, and then so I cross-referenced with some people I know because I'm blind, and some people I know that take public transit who have said, well, yeah, it's, like not everybody in the train car is wearing a mask. Not, it's basically, I don't know what they said, but they said it's definitely not, it's definitely not 100% and definitely not like even 80 or 90%. So when you say enforcement, how do you identify, well, first of all, okay, what are the bus drivers instructed to do if somebody's not wearing a mask? That's number one. But then number two, how do you identify people in the train? Because there's obviously the conductor's not, it's not the same as a bus. So how do you identify passengers in the train cars if they're not wearing masks?
Yeah, this is Molly Poppy. So we did have, I would say, not great compliance at the start of sort of mask mandates. I think it was just, there was a little bit of uncertainty around masks, probably a little lack of clarity from the federal government. Once the federal government did institute the federal mask mandate under the Biden administration, we did actually see a significant increase in mask compliance. We were well above 90% mask compliance. Since then, since there was sort of the repeal of the mask mandate, return of the mask mandate, and some of that.
Yes, that's when we've noticed it.
Yeah, you've definitely seen that change. And so what we've done I'll start with bus drivers. What we've asked our operators to do is when someone is boarding the bus, if they are not wearing a mask, we do instruct them to tell the individual that they need to wear a mask. And then if the individual does not comply, we do not ask our bus drivers to engage with that individual. And the reason why is we've seen a number of altercations, both on our buses as well as in transit agencies across the country, where bus drivers are assaulted for engaging with the mask and telling individuals to wear a mask. So we do instruct them to engage. We do have the masks there for them. So it hopefully sort of eliminates the altercation or reduces the altercation where the bus driver instead says, hey, I noticed you don't have a mask. Here's a mask for you. But we do not ask them to get out of their seats. We do not ask them to try to remove the individual from the bus. We do ask them to tell the individual to wear a mask, engage to the extent that it is safe, and then continue on their route. And then from the rail side, it is obviously a bit more challenging because we do not have individuals on every rail car. You will find and you will see CSAs, the customer service aides, where possible, they will ask individuals to wear a mask. At my own station, the Wellington station, the CSA, I have heard her multiple times as I am getting on the station, individuals behind me are not wearing masks, and I see her very quickly get on her audio announcement and continue to remind individuals to wear a mask. So we do have some active engagement. It's more education and verbal. We are not engaging physically with individuals around wearing masks. And I think we all know it is because we've seen on instances on airlines and public transit, it does tend to become physical altercations and can put our operators in danger. And we do not want to do that.
Right. Okay. And then the other question that I had heard that initially it used to be required in on platforms and in rail stations, and now it's only required on the physical trains and buses. It's no longer required on the platforms or on the half open stations, if you will. Like it would be required inside, once you get into the Thompson Center, but at like you said, the Wellington station, it would not be required while you walk down the stairs at the Wellington station. Is that correct?
So with everything with COVID, unfortunately, guidance is not always as clear as we want it to be. But you are correct. Masks are required in all indoor locations. That is by federal mandate. You must wear a mask in indoor locations. How CTA has engaged with that is let's try to eliminate the confusion and not have this conversation with people of saying, don't wear a mask on the platform, but if you're in the subway, wear a mask. And then if you're doing this, we've decided to not do that. And we have decided to be very clear, you must wear a mask at all times on CTA service. And that's how we've described it. But the federal mask mandate, the way they do talk about it is if it's an outdoor location, it is not required. Public transit agencies are allowed to have stricter mask guidance if they would like. So that is the guidance we continue to tell our riders, just to try to eliminate confusion and not have a 5-minute announcement on where you can and cannot wear masks. It's just trying to be very clear. You must wear your mask at all times on CTA service.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Molly, this is Joe. You're absolutely right. I think an announcement that I heard recently said about wearing it on CTA transit property. So yeah, that does eliminate the confusion.
This is Whitney. I have two quick questions. I was wondering, out of curiosity, if you've, with the initiative, with the price reduction in the past and the success with that, if you have seen other cities who have done the same thing with similar results. And then the follow-up question to that is, have you seen any cities who, once, I guess, things settle and they move away from that, if you've seen a downtrend of then actual people kind of investing back into the passives?
Yeah, so there have been a couple other transit agencies that have made decisions to reduce passes. WMATA in Washington, D.C., they have reduced their 7-day bus pass to $12. It was currently $15. They also made their rail weekend rides a flat $2. If anyone's familiar with WMATA, WMATA is a distance-based service. BART has also reduced their fares. BART is in San Francisco. It's their rail line. They've done a 50% reduction on their Clipper fares. BART is also a distance-based fare program. And then we've seen other transit agencies make other changes, sort of clarifying or reducing some prices. And so CTA is definitely not alone. We were one of the first, though, to make those changes. President Carter felt very firmly, and so did the board, that by making these changes, it would encourage individuals to come back to the system and would encourage individuals to really take another look at riding transit. And so, we do feel confident that those promotional fares are increasing rides. And then, Whitney, I think your second question was about if people are not trending into passes and sort of what we're seeing around sort of flexible remote work and if people are riding more. Is that right?
Yeah, so I guess like after the program ends, have you seen, just a general decline with people reinvesting back into that system?
Yeah, one of the things I'll say is in the promotional passes, we changed the 1, 3, and 7 day. We found the most increased use of the 1 day. And that is likely because individuals are looking for a little bit more flexibility when it comes to riding. They know they're not going to be riding probably every day, and they might be looking for some of those flexible rides. And so we have seen a decline usage of our 30-day pass, and we've seen sort of this increase in our 1 day. It's not a 1-for-1. It's not, 30 days gone down X%, 1 day's gone up the same amount, but we definitely are seeing there's more of a desire for that flexibility in passes and more of a desire to do pay as you go or pay as you ride. And so as we make these pass changes, we think it's important we set them at prices that even if you're not going to ride for 7 days or ride all 3 days, the value of that ride, that pass, is better than a pay as you ride. And by doing that, you sort of see people may look to call an Uber and see, the Uber's $20. I've got this 3-day pass. I'm going to take the ride. So we sort of see those, and I can't make any assumptions on what riders are going to do in the future, but we do try to make these promotional pass changes to make transit as sort of competitive as it possibly can with these other rides and get people thinking about riding more. And I think as we continue to move through the pandemic and we start to see how return to office settles, how sort of other return to normal patterns happen, we might want to look to make other changes to the fare products But at this point, we have extended the promotional fares to November 25th of this year. And then as part of the budget, we do plan to look to make future changes as well.
Thank you so much. That's really informative. Thank you.
Ms. Michelle, any other questions for Molly? But thank you so much, Molly. We really appreciate all your updates. I know COVID's always changing and evolving, so we love all your updates because we want to stay in the know as well. So thank you. Appreciate your time.
Happy to update you on, and please let me know if you have.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda, this is Michelle again, is the customer service report. So we, all of the committee members, I think received the report prior to the meeting for review. And now we have Kate Kennelly, a manager of the customer service, to give us a report.
Excuse me, I think you skipped ridership.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Michelle again. Turn it over to Mike for ridership.
It's going to be Elsa. Sorry.
Elsa. Hi, Elsa.
Changes. I was going to interrupt Michelle. My name is Elsa. I'm the VP of Scheduling and Service Planning. And a description of myself is I'm a Latina female wearing kind of like a bop haircut with glasses. And I have like a gray, black jacket. I'm working from home. And in the background is the green wall of my living room. And then I'll go ahead and start. Wanted to give a short update on our ridership. So overall ridership is growing, which is a good thing. We've seen more substantial growth in the late summer into the fall, but it slowed down a bit as September came along. As Molly mentioned, it's been slowing down, but Molly had mentioned how in September we're expecting offices to open up and be more occupied, and that did not occur. And so our ridership has still increased, but just at a slower rate. We believe that it could have been because of the spread of the Delta variant, COVID-19, that had contributed to this slower growth. But the good news is that the ridership did not decrease, that we're just seeing a slower growth than we had earlier in the summer and in the beginning of the year. Cta System is currently carrying 50% of our comparable 2019 ridership, and it has been at the level since August. So it kind of leveled off at 51%. It's kind of staying there. 55% of the 2019 ridership has been captured on the bus side, and 45% of the 2019 ridership is captured on the rail. So that's a breakdown in the modes. Overall, it's 51% from 2019, and 51% and 55% for bus, and 45 for rail. The last week of September into the first week of October, the weekday system ridership was averaging 790,000 customers. The bus, that was the bus. And the rail ridership was averaging, sorry, I lost my track here. And the rail was averaging over 320,000 on each weekday. So that's kind of what we've seen in terms of numbers. Bus exhibited week over week increases on all 5 weekday types. We hit a pandemic high on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. And that seems to be largely due to an increase in the schools returning back in person, both at the high school level and at the college level. The Dan Ryan Red Line and the South Green Line has also in ridership, and some of that has contributed to some of the home games for the White Sox here in Chicago. So that kind of sums up a quick ridership overview. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
This is Michelle. Thank you, Elsa. Sorry, I skipped you, but quick question for you. So as ridership is increasing, are we adding more, like buses and trains to the lines just to ensure social distancing, or is that not like a thing we're considering anymore? I'm just curious.
We did lift, earlier this year, we did lift the capacity restrictions that we had. to allow for more people to use the service as they were coming back into the system. We don't have those current constraints, and we aren't more service. Specifically, since we did not reduce any service as other transit agencies did. So we're continuing to provide the same level of service that we had as closely to 2019 as possible. Where we do add extra service is for any special events, such as Lollapalooza, Ride, as well as Pitchfork. So anytime there's a special event or baseball game at Wrigley, the Bulls currently, and the Blackhawks, we do have supplemental service to help with the increase in ridership, as well as we added school trippers into our service in the fall. And these are usually provided at high schools during the PM dismissal because there are increases on our route at that time that won't be able to carry the loads of our regular service. So we have added that service, which was suspended last year when the schools were remote. But we have kept the same service levels that we have in 2019.
This is Michelle. Thank you so much. Any other questions for Elsa? All right. Well, thank you so much, Elsa. We really appreciate your report and update, and happy to have you. Sorry, I skipped you earlier.
That's okay. Thank you.
So next up on the agenda, we have Kate Kenley to give us a customer service report. Turn it over to you, Kate.
Good afternoon. My name is Kate Kenley. I am the General Manager for Customer Service. I am a white female, longish, brown hair and glasses. Before I get into my regular update, I've been asked to provide a brief overview of the customer service department. So customer service is a very small team here at CTA that handles a number of critical tasks for the agency. Our primary role is intake, routing, and analysis of customer concerns. We currently staff 13 full-time positions, which includes call center operations at 888 Your CTA and the customer feedback programs, who handles all of the customer feedback submitted online or through email. Our call center is open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and staffs 8 full-time customer service representatives. Our staff handles inbound calls and emails from customers and routes concerns and inquiries throughout the agency. We encourage customers to contact us at 888 Your CTA through the form on our website or via email at feedback@transitchicago.com. Our department shares customer feedback within the CTA to enhance policy discussions to help inform business decisions. And we accomplish this through daily routing of customer concerns, daily reporting to upper management, as well as monthly departmental reports. Customer service tracks complaints, commendations, and other concerns in the City of Chicago's 311 database. And if a customer requests to receive a callback from a manager, then that complaint is also logged in an internal SharePoint site and referred to the responsible garage or terminal for follow-up. Management at the garage or terminal will contact the customer, usually within about 3 business days, and then we'll go on to complete their investigation, interview the operator if that's necessary, and determine any corrective action if that's required. The complaint will then be closed once we are notified that the customer has been contacted and that the issue is being investigated. So I'll pause here in case there's any questions about customer service before I move on with the regular report. So since the committee did receive the copies of the report ahead of time, I'll just provide a very quick synopsis of the information. So over the last 3 months, July through September, we logged 169 ADA complaints, or an average of 56 per month. This represents 4% of all the complaints that we logged, which is very typical, and the same as we received the last several periods. This is the top issue reported over the last few months was employees being discourteous with a total of 49, or an average of 16 per month. This is actually the same that we received during the previous quarter, and is broken down further to 84% were bus and 16% rail. Our next highest category was reports of customers being passed at the bus stop. With a total of 31, this category was down 14% from the previous quarter. So those are the kind of the highlights. If anyone has any questions about the reports, I'll be happy to try to answer.
This is Mary. Can you just tell me what happens when people call and complain about the operator not curbing the bus? Does someone ask the operator to just remember to do that, or how do you work with a problem like that? Because it seems like some of the operators just do it on purpose because they know that I'm short and I'm going to be upset if they don't, you know.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that type of complaint would be taken seriously, and we would handle it just as we would really any other. We would document that concern and forward it over to the garage, that bus route that operator works out of. We'd send that over there so that that manager can review the complaint and have a conversation with the operator to make sure that they're aware of what needs to happen, and they'll determine if any other corrective action is required.
Well, thank you.
This is Michelle. Any other questions for Kate?
I have a question. This is Howard Wilson. I'm a former bus driver, actually, back in the 80s when they hired the full-time temporary operators. But, and I'm visually impaired now. What's the policy if I had a problem with the driver and I don't know the bus number and I don't know I can't see the driver's badge number? If I were to ask the operator, is it CTA's policy for them to provide that information?
I probably have to defer to bus operations and what the policy is for the driver, what information they can give you. But if you were to call customer service and provide us with as much information as you have, such as if you know the route and the direction you're traveling and the date and time that it occurred, you know, as much as we have, we'll share that with the bus operations manager so that they can try to identify that information, use their resources on the back end to try to figure out, you know, which operator that was.
Yeah,
I can actually.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, this is Amy, and I can actually jump in here because when I do the ADA trainings for bus operators, I do explain to them they are required upon request to give their ID number. They're not necessarily required to give a name, but they are required to give their ID number. And I keep telling these guys and ladies, just do it because we can find you. It's not that hard to find them. If you tell me you were at a certain stop on a certain day at a certain time going in whatever direction, they can identify the bus and the operator. And then it is like a violation for them not to have provided their number upon request. So they are supposed to do it. And I realize that some people are that's a little bit intimidating for the customer to have to ask for the number, because there are some operators that think if they don't give you the number that, you know, they won't be found out, but that is not true. So if you can just tell us where you got on, when you got on, where you were going, we can most likely identify the person.
Okay, and fortunately that has not been, I haven't had any problems. So I'm just thinking, you know, if there were to be a problem. And I know sometimes the followers become leaders and the leaders become followers with rerouting and things. So I thought that if I were able to get that badge number, that would actually greatly, you know, identify the person and thus won't cause, you know, any confusion of what driver that actually was at that time. Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
This is Amy again. Of course, it does make it easier, but it's not, don't think that, oh, I couldn't get the number, so I can't call it in, because that's not true.
Oh, yeah.
We can find you. So
okay.
We know.
Okay.
So again, any other questions for Kate? If not, thank you so much, Kate. We really appreciate all your updates and continued support with all the complaints that come in. And, you know, thanks for staying positive always, even though it's a lot of negativity in your work. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Next up on the agenda, we have the Elevator Escalator Efficiencies Report. And we have Lenny Romano and Alex Studnicka to present. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and do a quick visual description if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Good afternoon to the committee. My name is Lenny Romano. I'm the General Manager of Facilities Maintenance. A brief description of myself is I'm a white male with brown, long, wavy hair, blue eyes, about 5'11", sitting here in my office at the CTA, wearing a light gray and pinkish checkered button-up long sleeve shirt, located here on the west side of Chicago, which is also known as the West Shops. So today I am going to be chairing this with Alex Studnicka, who is the mechanical engineer with Facilities Maintenance Engineering on the expanded portion of this report. However, I will go into the efficiency report that we had submitted to the committee and kind of give you just a brief description and detail as to how we held the line in the third quarter compared to the second quarter. So without further ado, we had a slight decrease for our elevators from the second quarter to the third quarter, slightly meaning only 0.5% of a dip. Escalators, we saw a slight decrease from the second quarter to the third quarter as well. That was a 1% decrease. And then year over year for escalators, we saw a slight increase for the month of September, slight decrease in the months of July and August. For elevators, we saw a slight decrease year over year for August and September, and then pretty flat for the month of July in the third quarter. With regards to our current escalator maintenance program, we currently have a total of 6 escalators that are currently getting a heavy maintenance, which would be Belmont on the blue line. We have a completion date of October 27th. Lake Randolph on the red line, completion date of December 20th. 47th on the red line, completion date of November 12th. Clinton on the blue line, completion date of February of 2022. And then we have Howard on the red line. It's still to be determined as we continue to explore the issues with the escalator at Howard. And then last is Randolph, Washington on the red line with the completion date of November 1st. Current long-term maintenance with our elevators, 47th on the red line, completion date expected to be December 31st. Western on the blue line, November 8th, along with Washington, Randolph, November 1st, and then Ashland Lake on the green line, November 1st as well. We have no future current or future escalator maintenance work at this time for the remainder of this year. And as far as for the elevators, we have a total of 2 that will be up and coming sometime in December and November. So I'll pause here, and if you have any questions in regard to this report, I will go ahead and let the committee ask away.
Yeah, hi Lenny, this is Joe. Thanks for your presentation.
Sure.
Do you guys have like an average amount of time to have an escalator repaired in an elevator, or is it really a case-by-case basis?
Joe, great question. So some of them are, the majority are case by case. However, when there are injuries pertaining to either the escalator or an elevator that requires medical attention, we're at the mercy of the Chicago building department, elevator and escalator inspectors to perform a final inspection on the elevator or the escalator prior to the escalator or elevator being put back into service. But yes, it's case by case. However, we tried to address the issues immediately, especially with our elevators. We have a 24/7 around the clock coverage for elevator mechanics to be on the property to address any and all elevator issues. So needless to say, we have a rating or an A grade of elevator efficiencies. So it's, it goes without saying that relatively our elevators are put back in service relatively soon after.
That's great to hear. This is Joe. Thank you.
Welcome. If you have no other questions, I will go into the expanded report and I will share my screen here. Okay. Is everyone able to see my screen? Because I lost you.
Not yet, no. There we go.
Okay. Okay. Are we seeing page 1, which is facility maintenance, elevator, escalator, expanded report?
Yes.
Okay. So overall, CTA has more than 180 passenger elevators throughout our agency. Elevators require inspections, preventative maintenance on a periodic basis in order to ensure reliable and safe operations. All of our inspections, preventative maintenance, and repairs on the CTA elevators are completed by our contractor, which is a company, Anderson Elevators, and all regulatory compliance inspections are performed by an independent third-party contractor to ensure that Anderson Elevators is providing the best quality work as can be. The types of inspections that are performed, we provide for monthly inspections, which consist of all safety devices, speed control of the cars, doors, opening and closing, interlocks, as well as the lubrication and various other electromechanical systems. Along the lines of the monthly, annual inspections are also performed, which is similar to the monthly. However, they do an additional inspections, which is part of the annual inspection certification, which is the AIC program. They perform category 1s and category 5 tests for compliance. At the CTA, we have the majority of our elevators are made up of hydraulic and traction type elevators. You may ask, what is a hydraulic elevator? In this slide here, we show a visual of the hydraulic elevator, and it's an elevator which is powered by a piston that travels inside the cylinder. An electric motor pumps hydraulic oil into the cylinder to move the piston up and down, which the piston then smoothly lifts the elevator cab, and the electrical valves controls the release of the oil for a gentle descent on the way down. So this is a typical elevator that you would see throughout our system. The hydraulic fluid tank boiler has the oil inside here. During the winter months, it takes a little bit longer. There's a little bit of labor involved for that oil to flow through and raise that piston. However, we've installed for the winter relays that allow for every 5 to 15 minutes of, regardless of use or not, to cycle the elevator to open and close the doors, and allows the elevator to go up and go down. Next slide is a traction elevator description. A traction elevator is essentially a cab that uses steel ropes that are looped around sheaves and connected to an electric motor. The sheaves have a counterweight attached to the end to balance the load of the elevator car. Traction on the ropes raises and lowers the cab, or lowers the elevator. Similar to the hydraulic elevator, except with the exception of the ropes. These are steel braided ropes. With the counterweight, it allows basically the elevator to raise and lower itself. This elevator does not require any type of winter prep as far as cycling them on and off regularly. However, we do winter prep the actual mechanical room, the machine room, to ensure that the controller and the heat sensitive equipment that's inside of there is properly heated so that there's no faulty electrical component that may fail. Next slide, we talk a little bit about our escalators. We have over 160 passenger escalators. Our escalators also require inspection and preventative maintenance on a periodic basis to ensure reliable and safe operation. All the inspections and preventative maintenance and repairs on our CTA escalators are performed by our in-house CTA electricians, which is the local 134. In addition to the electricians, CTA also contracts a third-party company who witnesses and submits to the authority having jurisdiction all regulatory compliance and inspections forms for annual certifications for compliance. We also have 3 elevator escalator inspectors that assist with performing the inspections, as well as inspecting the escalators with the City of Chicago inspectors. The type of inspections performed are done monthly, which consist of all safety devices, including lubrication of the chains, the rollers and gears, and determination of any future modernization based off of the monthly inspections. Annual, we perform step indexing, which is to ensure there's no gap between the steps and the skirt stake. The skirts. to avoid any customer impingement. Contractor conducts an additional inspection of all the, it should be escalators, which meets all the annual inspection certification Category 1 test. Next slide. I will pass this on to Alex, who will introduce himself and kind of talk briefly about the few slides that he has put together for this presentation and how he works with our department. So Alex, if you're on, you can go ahead and present.
Good afternoon, everyone. Like Lenny said, my name is Alex Stanichka, and I am the mechanical engineer for facilities maintenance engineering. We also work out of West Shops. I'm going to share some statistics that I put together from the reports that the elevator contractor and the escalator mechanics put out daily on all of the incidents that happen on our elevators and escalators throughout the system. So all the data you'll see here spans the third quarter of 2021. There were 381 calls that quarter out to elevators across the system. Like Lenny said, there's over 180 escalators. So since 130 of them had at least one call, that's around 70% that needed some kind of intervention and 30% that only needed the routine inspection that's required on this type of equipment. On a line-by-line basis, that ranges from 40% needing intervention on the pink line up to, as far as lines with a significant amount of elevators, the loop would be around 92% of the elevators along that line. Go to the next slide, Lenny. So as far as the amount of times a mechanic was called out to elevators on a line-by-line basis, the green line had significantly more calls than the other lines, followed by the red line, the brown line, then the blue line, and then stations shared by the green and pink line kind of had the most. As far as comparing that to the actual amount of elevators that are serving those stations, the green, while it does have the most elevators, this is still kind of a lot of calls per elevator, 2.75. That's up a little bit from last quarter. And then the green and pink line, the stations that are shared by those lines, that's only 3 stations. So the fact that it shows up here is kind of a high. It's kind of a high line means it's somewhere to look at for an area of improvement. You can go to the next slide. We can also look at kind of which component was responsible for all of the calls that we had on our elevators, and also whether that was a non-preventable mechanical or electrical issue that actually needs the mechanic to intervene, or whether it was a preventable issue. Maybe it was already, they showed up and the elevator was already running, or there was just something stuck in the door. So we want to look at what actually represents a problem with the elevator or escalator itself. By component, you can see that the doors were the most common component needing intervention. This is what you'd expect. I mean, that's the part that's, opening and closing. It's exposed to the environment, and it's in motion. So anything can happen to it. Significantly more non-preventable than preventable, but it does have a significant amount of preventable calls associated with it. The switches, this could have been maybe the elevator was switched off and needed to be switched on, so maybe not an issue with the elevator itself, or there could have been a faulty switch. The controllers and electrical issues were generally a non-preventable issue. Running on arrival, obviously that's preventable. The sill is kind of the ledge that along the edge of the floor of the elevator or of the outer hall where the door runs along. So if something was stuck in there preventing the door from operating properly, then it just had to be swept out, then that's a preventable issue compared to maybe if the sill is damaged or bent and hurting the performance of the door. And then we've got the detector edge, which makes sure nothing is in the way of the door as it's closing. So if the detector edge itself is faulty, then that's a non-preventable issue. If something is just blocking it, it just has to be removed. It's a simple preventable issue. Then we kind of look at which elevators had the most calls over the quarter. Maybe that could signify that maybe they could all be related. They could be signaling that a certain issue is developing. So we have Morgan and Lake on the green and pink line with 17 calls. Pulaski and Lake on the green line, 12 calls. 55th and Dan Ryan on the red line had 9 calls. And Cicero and Lake on the green also had 9 calls. Then kind of going down, you can see that the green and pink line, Morgan and Lake, Clinton and Lake, and Ashton and Lake, those are the ones I mentioned earlier, that they had a high amount of calls for relatively small amount of elevators. And you can see that this is kind of why those 3 elevators had a higher amount compared to the other units. Same statistics for the escalators. There were 343 calls related to escalators in the, I guess I should say, third quarter of 2021. And out of the 160 plus elevators, 110 of those needed a mechanic called out to it at least once. So that ranges from 54% on the blue line up to 88% on the pink line. Go to the next slide. Similar statistics for escalators, breaking it down by line. We had the most calls on the red line, followed by the blue line, green line, and the pink line. Line shared by the red and brown line, and the loop. So this kind of goes over what was actually done to the escalator, because many times the escalator sensors, there's all kinds of different sensors on the escalator that's checking to make sure that certain components are working properly at all times. And if those are set off, even momentarily, then the mechanic is going to have to come out and reset it. So they'll come out, make sure that there actually isn't something wrong with that associated component. Maybe if maybe there is something wrong, they'll fix it. But if there isn't, then they'll check everything, start it back up. It's just a reset. So those resets made up most of the calls out to the escalators this quarter. When you look at when the data says they actually replaced, repaired, adjusted something, that represented about 56 incidents. And then here we have the escalators that had the most calls. So at the top with 16, we had Wilson on the red and purple lines, 15 at Clark and Division on the red line, 11 at Randolph, Washington State on the red line, and 10 on Belmont on the red line, red, purple, brown.
Okay, thank you, Alex. I will take on the rest of the slides from here. Our next slide shows a little bit of what work we do based off of some of the statistics that Alex has put together within my department here in reviewing to help determine and making the deciding factor as to what elevators or escalators will require the most work in order to ensure that they are reliable for our customers. In this photo here at Pulaski on the Green Line, we did a floor replacement. This is the new type of methyl acrylic type flooring that we use. It's very durable to water and moisture, and it's seamless. It only takes 1 day for installation of the flooring material. However, when you also add the platform and everything else that goes along with it, it usually takes more than a day. But the actual application of the floor product takes 1 day to actually install and cure, and it'll be ready for use within that 1 day. Our next slide here shows a elevator at Conservatory where the platform and floor replacement was performed. You can see on the left-hand side of the before shot the kind of corrosion that our floors take on due to the elements, whether it be urine, rain, snow, salt. The steel, eventually becomes very corroded, which then creates an issue with the door's operation as far as the elevator, and which causes also high calls for service. So in this particular elevator, we basically stripped down the elevator platform, rebuilt it, and then laid a new floor on top of the substructure. The next slide is Washington and Wells. Here we take on a bigger chunk. You could kind of see the bottom of the elevator here. This is the bottom of the platform on the far top right corner. On the bottom right corner, you see the different layers of flooring that's put in place. There's a sheet of plywood, then there's a subfloor on top of that, and then an aluminum piece of steel, and then the epoxy resin floor goes on top of that. And then at the bottom left, you can see the sill here on the bottom of the cab. That is part of the issues that we come across a lot on the Green Line with sill replacements. So this is work that we've identified through service calls with our contractor, and seeing the reports from Alex helping us make the determination that this is one elevator that needed the floors done as well as the platform and sills rather soon. The sill here on the exterior side at Washington and Wells, same thing was done with the floor, the platform, doors, and sill replacement. You can see the concrete here. This was recently renewed and re-poured to help with the sill mechanisms of the doors to allow for the doors to open and close freely without any interruption. And then the last slide here, I've added our names and email. If you'd like a copy of this, please feel free to email me, or I think Amy can provide you with the report if you'd like to look at it a little bit more in details. But this is the conclusion of our expanded report, and I'd be happy to take any questions from anyone or the committee at this time.
This is Amy, and if you guys want, I can send out the report.
Yeah, that's fine. Not
Okay.
a problem.
I'll do that with the other stuff that I'm sending.
Okay.
So Michelle. Oh, go ahead, Michael. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Michael Kaiser. I have a question about how long it takes to get someone out to do the resets from the time you receive the notification.
Sure. This is Lenny Romano. Michael, can you specify, are we referring to elevators or escalators?
How about each?
Both? Sure. Okay. So the process goes, if there is an issue with an elevator, usually the customer service the customer service assistant will notify the control center of the issue. If it's during regular work hours, it'll be then dispatched to the elevator mechanic, whereas then the elevator mechanic will then attend to the site of where the issue is, and then perform his inspection to put the elevator back in service. If it's after hours, it's the same process. The customer attendant will notify the control center. The control center will notify Anderson's 24-hour hotline, where they will notify the mechanic directly, and then the mechanic will be dispatched from there. In regards to escalator, it's a little bit different. Our escalator mechanics, their hours of operation are from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. So any calls that come in during that time frame will be dispatched to the escalator foreperson via a work order or the escalator manager. And then the escalator foreperson will then dispatch his mechanic to the site for wherever the repairs are needed. If it's after hours, it gets logged, and then the next morning we review our log from the control center as well as the work order system, and a mechanic will be then sent to the location that morning. So if it's after work hours, we usually attend to the escalator repairs the following day.
And by dispatch, you mean dispatch the same day?
Not if it's after 3:30. So if a escalator were to go down at say 4 p.m., a mechanic will not be dispatched until the following day.
And how about Fridays, for example? Are they waiting until Monday to get the person dispatched?
That is correct, yes. So anything that goes down on Friday will not be attended to until the weekend, after the weekend on Monday morning. However, if there is an emergency, we do allow for emergency callouts, but generally, we seldomly see emergency arises from escalator failures, unless it's in an area where we obviously may have an event and we know we're going to have heavy traffic. Usually, like for example, the marathon, we had escalator mechanics already on site, as well as 2 additional elevator mechanics. We had them also stationed strategically in the central business district and in the loop to attend to any issues that were considered emergencies after hours. So.
And I guess one final question, do you have any statistics on how long the equipment is out of service if it's something other than a reset?
So all of the efficiency data that we provide to you is based off of the time the elevator or escalator is taken out of service and then put back in service. So that data is driven by time. So that's primarily the main source of data that we utilize for our elevator efficiencies and escalator efficiencies.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Michelle. Thanks, Lenny and Alex, for your in-depth reports. That I learned a lot. I didn't know how elevators even worked, so that's great. First question I have, I guess, is how often are they cleaned? I know, does that fall under your purview, or is that just, I know they're inspected pretty regularly, but how often are they cleaned for the elevators?
Sure, Michelle. This is Lenny again. Actually, that is done by our rail station management department, which is through our operations. I know they have a schedule or they perform, their tasks and duties based off of what is in their purview, but that is, something that I don't know personally. I do know that they are clean. I just don't know the intervals of when they're clean.
For sure. Okay, this is Michelle, sorry.
Hi, it's Amy, and I just wanted to say, in terms of cleaning, if ever there is an incident and it's reported to the CSA, they will get like a janitor there right away to clean if there is somebody spilled or there's other problems. So if it's reported to the customer service person, they can get someone there pretty quickly in order to, clean if there's a mess or something. And unfortunately, even if it's cleaned, 5 minutes later, somebody does something and it gets messy again until it's reported again. So it's sort of that revolving door. So if you do notice that there is a problem significant in an elevator, please report it to the customer service person because they can get a janitor to help with that.
This is Michelle, super helpful. I noticed in the chat something popped up that M. Thomas said he's here from the rail station management. Did you want to make a comment, sir?
I'm a she. Can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi.
It's okay, no problem. Let me turn my camera on.
Oh, we can hear you. This is Michelle. Did you want to make a
I was trying to get my camera to come on, but there we go.
Hello.
How you doing? So yeah, pretty much Amy hit the nail on top of the head. Pretty much as long as you report it to a customer service assistant or representative, we're able to get a janitor. In the events that there isn't one in the station, whether that station is unstaffed for the day, then the button inside the elevator can also connect you to control, to where control can let someone know that there is a hazard or something that needs to be taken care of if the station at the time is unstaffed and there's no CSA or CSR available.
This is Michelle. Super helpful because I've encountered many elevators with my wheelchair that are not, up to standard. And so good to know that I can push the button and call and report that. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much. No problem.
And then one follow-up question. This is Michelle again for Lenny or Alex. What my question, I guess, is in terms of like how we report if we notice an elevator issue. Is it always the process to let the customer service agent know, or is there like a number to call, or do we push the button in the elevator? Like, what's the best and fastest way to alert someone?
Sure. So some of the feedback we get is through Kate's department, through customer service from feedback. So we do get calls or emails, from her area, from her department, where a customer will advise us of an issue with a particular elevator or an escalator. It could be anything from cleanliness to mechanical issues, or that possible detainment that wasn't reported. A lot of times we'll receive those calls. If it's information where it's time stamped or at a particular location, we'll pull cameras to see if there was an actual issue, or kind of just narrow things down to a little bit further. Sometimes the customers will provide a callback, and we'll do that. We'll call the customer back to inform them if for example, an elevator was to be returned back to service and it's now being extended a little bit longer. They'll request feedback as to why and how soon. So I will usually make those calls to the customer once I receive all the data and information from whichever party, whether it's the elevator department or the escalator department. But the calls tremendously help us as well. So I encourage anyone to call customer service or send an email to feedback. That does definitely help us address issues that are what we call phantom or ghost issues, where we don't know about it, but it also helps us to prevent something like a detainment in the future too. So we can catch those things just by a customer complaint.
This is Michelle. Thank you. That's super helpful, just because it sounds like half the battle is like letting you guys know so you're aware to then let the mechanic know. And if you can get that process streamlined, maybe the elevators and escalators could be, in better repair.
This is Lenny. Yes, I agree with you 100%. It's a relationship.
This is Michelle again. Any more questions for Lenny or Alex? All right, well, with that, thank you both so much for taking the time today to present to us. We really do appreciate the accessibility features of having elevators and escalators. So thank you for all your hard work. And next up on the agenda, we have the bus stop improvement project. And presenting today is Jonathan Serwinski. Sorry if I'm butchering your last name. And also Jason Meter. Let you introduce yourselves with a quick visual description, please.
Sure, I'll start off real quick. My name is John Sherwinski. I'm the Director of Service Planning and Traffic Engineering here at CTA. I'm a white male, short brown hair, maybe if you in need of a shave. I'm sitting here in my dining room in front of sort of a large mirror, wearing a light blue button-down shirt. So I'll talk really quick about this and then turn it over to Jason to add some more detail and go over a presentation, but we're working with our colleagues over at the Chicago Department of Transportation to make some accessibility improvements to some of our bus stops throughout the system. So, first of all, we're really happy to be here to talk about this. What is, I think, a really good improvement system. So I'm going to turn it over to Jason to kick off the presentation, and then David Smith with the CDOT is also going to talk about this. They're actually leading the effort, and we're working along with them. So I'll turn it over to Jason right now.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jason Meter. I'm Senior Manager of Traffic Planning at CTA. I am currently working from home in my bedroom with my blue Great Dane Franklin. Decided to photobomb the call behind me right on cue. I'm a Caucasian male wearing a floral black shirt, and just realized when I saw myself on camera that I shaved my beard yesterday, but not my mustache. So it's a new look I'm trying out. So thanks for having us, and thanks for the intro, John. So bus stop accessibility program, as many of you know, or let me share a slide real quick, actually. And all right, can everybody see the slide now? Yes. All right. Okay. So CTA, we annually and on an ongoing basis assess the accessibility of every bus stop in our entire system. So we kind of put them into three main categories, one being accessible, meaning that there is a concrete landing area at least 5 feet wide along the curb and 8 feet deep. That allows for the deployment of wheelchair ramps off the bus and, a little bit of wiggle room for error, depending where the operator stops. And then for the ones that do not fall into this accessibility category, we kind of categorize them into needing minor upgrades or major upgrades. Minor upgrades typically just means that there's grass parkway adjacent to the bus stop as opposed to sidewalk all the way to the curb. And we say it's minor because all it needs is a little patch of sidewalk, and then there'll be a clear space for the ramp to be deployed. Then the other category we'd say are major upgrades, and those vary more widely than just the sidewalk pad. Sometimes it could be a narrow sidewalk against an embankment wall, that take major reconstruction to finish. Really steep slopes that need grade changes, things of that nature. So we have a record of all of these throughout the system, and this next slide here, there's a map of the city of Chicago with dots representing stops that still need improvements. It's notable that the stops needing improvements are relatively evenly distributed throughout the city of Chicago, maybe less so in the downtown area because we don't have as many areas with the grass parkways. It's mainly sidewalk right up to the curb. So, we kind of have a leg up there to start with. But even though, it may appear that there are a lot of these dots on the map, 86% of our stops within the city of Chicago are already accessible. And so, there's really only 14% of them that that are depicted. And of those 14%, they are targeted for accessibility improvements, held back by, construction budget and ability to get these done. And then of those 14%, there are 71% of those would fall into the minor upgrades category of that. And the additional 29% need more major upgrades. So in teaming up with the City of Chicago DOT, we are working towards prioritizing which ones will be able to address first, and then also in partnership with them identifying funding and mechanisms to actually get this work completed. So on that note, I will turn it over to my colleague David Smith at CDOT to go over some more information.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. David Smith, Chicago Department of Transportation. I am a white male, dark hair, short dark hair. I'm at the office downtown at CDOT's offices. I'm wearing a blue shirt and a blue sweater, and actually happens to have a logo on it that says Vision Zero. And Vision Zero is the city's program to address the issue of traffic violence or traffic crashes that result in serious injuries. And so as a city, we are committed to working toward eliminating traffic fatalities and serious injuries that happen within our city. And as many of you know, this is a serious issue. On average, about one person is killed on our streets in a traffic crash about every 3 days. And so we're working through improvements to the infrastructure around our city, working on data analysis, education, working with many partner city agencies like CTA and others to make our streets safer and more accessible for everybody. And the accessibility piece is what we're going to focus on today. The slide that is showing right now is entitled Chicago Works. And Chicago Works is a funding program that the City Council and the Mayor approved in the last year. And it is a large capital improvement program fund source that's being used in a variety of ways. We have a pot of money, about $20 million, that is called Complete Streets. And Complete Streets, the idea behind that is making sure that our streets are accessible for everybody, regardless of your age, your ability, or your mode of transportation. And part of what we're doing as within Complete Streets includes improvements to CTA bus operations and also access to bus and transit stops. Additionally, in addition to the Complete Streets program, we are, through resurfacing and other capital projects, making sure that bus stops are more accessible for people in the city. And so I'll talk through our approach to identifying which stops we want to address and make more accessible in 2022. This slide includes three circles, which represent the three categories of stops that we've identified. The first category being bus stops that are near hospitals. So we went through and did a scan of all the bus stops that are within an 1/8 mile of a hospital that fall into one of the two categories that Jason mentioned, where they need accessibility improvements. So that's the first bucket. The second bucket is high ridership stops. So we took a look at all of the bus stops needing accessibility improvements and ranked them by ridership and identified the top tier and have included that in our list. And then the third bucket are stops in priority communities. And so I'll walk through in a couple slides how we identified the priority communities. So this slide shows a map of the city and has some dots on the map that represent bus stops near hospitals. So within an 1/8 mile of a hospital, and generally that would be the closest bus stop to the hospital. That is in need of accessibility improvements. And there are 13 of those stops in total around the city. 12 of those would fall into the minor upgrade category, and one of those stops would fall into the major upgrade category. And these dots are spread pretty well throughout the city. And there are, as I said, 13. The next slide is a map of the highest ridership stops needing accessibility improvements. There are 20 of them. We took the top 20. They average close to 450 boardings and alightings per day. They're spread pretty well throughout the city, not downtown, generally on the south and west side with a few on the north side. Of the 20 bus stops, 13 require minor upgrades, 7 require major. This map also shows different shades of gray, and that represents what we're calling the Mobility and Economic Hardship Index, and that combines a number of inputs like average income. It includes issues around overcrowded housing, commute time, percentage of people with disabilities within the community area. This is a lot of data taken from the U.S. Census to create this mobility and economic hardship data or index. And we've focused this effort largely in communities of medium and high economic hardship, and that's largely the far south side, excluding Hyde Park, Beverly, and Morgan Park, and then the west side of the city. The largest bucket of stops is within priority community areas, and this slide shows 5 different variables that we took into account to identify the community areas, including ridership, ramp deployments, so CTA captures the when and where the ramp is deployed. We took into account age of population per the census data, so prioritizing under 5 years old and over 75. We used the census data to capture percentage of population with a disability, and then the mobility and economic hardship index. And we looked at these in a variety of ways and with different weights to see how that would shape the top priority communities. And in every way that we looked at it, the three communities that rose to the top are Austin on the west side, Chatham on the south side, and Belmont-Cragen on the northwest side. So the next slide shows a map of these three priority community areas. We identified, at this point, we've identified 15 stops in each community area, so a total of 45 bus stops, 27 requiring minor upgrades, 18 requiring major upgrades. And so that comes out to a total of over 80 bus stops that we will be evaluating over the winter time and hoping to make improvements to next year. In addition to the condition of the bus stop, when we survey these locations, we'll also be looking at if improvements are needed to the ADA ramps at the intersections, or if there are other pavement marking needs to highlight the crosswalk that are needed. This list, it's not finalized, we're in the process of that, but really wanted to present the methodology that we've taken to identify these locations for next year and get any feedback from the committee on the approach that we're taking. Next step would be to finalize the list of stops, do an assessment of each of those stops to determine what improvements are needed to improve the accessibility of the stop, and then to begin the field survey work and the engineering design work, again, with the goal of upgrading all of these in 2022. That's the last slide. So I know we're running out of time, but with that, happy to answer any questions or take any feedback.
This is Joe. I just have one question. I'm just curious, is it generally harder to make a bus stop accessible if there's a bus shelter there because you have less space to work with? Because from my understanding, buses actually are not supposed to pull up and at the shelter to let people on and off.
So in the bus shelter, it depends on the situation of that exact location and how much clear space there is within the sidewalk and between the shelter and the face of the curb. And that's something that we will be evaluating. There are also some additional bus stops that we identified that just simply moving the bus stop to the far side of the intersection not only would help with bus operations, but would also provide a corner that may have more space, because it could be a bus shelter that causes that pinch point. It could be a bench, it could be signs or newspaper stands. So those are all things that we'll be evaluating as part of the field survey.
Okay, thanks. This is Joe.
Yep.
This is Mary.
Michelle. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mary.
Are you going to be installing any new bus shelters anywhere, or how do you decide, or are you responsible for bus shelters, first of all?
So personally, I don't have that information. CDOT, I know CDOT oversees the contract for the bus shelters, and that those locations are determined in partnership with CTA, but I don't personally have just the background or knowledge of where those are going to be in the future or how those are expanded. Not sure if any of John or Jason has any insights.
No, as far as I know, and the way that's been the past couple of years is there's a static number of JC Decode bus shelters per their contract. We occasionally move them from one location to another based on bus stop relocations, consolidations, developments, things like that. I do believe that in the next couple of years there will be a new contract between the city and a shelter provider, and what I don't know is whether that's going to change the dynamic at all and open up the opportunity for more shelters or a change in the way that they're spread out through the city.
They're a good thing. If we can get more of them, that would be wonderful.
Yes, agreed, and good to hear.
So this is Michelle. Hi, David. I think we've been in other committees before, so nice to see you. Thank you for your presentation and also for John and Jason. I am incredibly excited about this project because I ride the bus all the time, and in my wheelchair, I can find many that are not accessible. So super excited about this. Question, I guess, around, you mentioned curb cuts are going to be examined. Are you going to, like, will all 4 be examined or just the one leading up to the bus stop? Because oftentimes, I have to cross the street to get to the bus stop. So making sure that that's in the purview as well.
Yeah. Hey, Michelle, good to see you again. So my goal would be to survey the intersection. Okay. So to identify any ramps that are need upgrading at the intersection, because as you mentioned, you're crossing the street to get to the bus stop. So yeah, that's something we would look at, as well as the pavement, the crosswalk striping on all 4 legs of the intersection.
Awesome, thank you. This is Michelle. Any further questions for anyone? I know we're running out of time, guys. So.
This is John again. Just I shared my email in the chat, and I'll say it real quick too. It's jczerwinski@transitchicago.com. If you have any suggestions, this will hopefully be a continuing process. So any suggestions, we're definitely open and would consider these either possibly this year or for future years, and more focusing on strategy with how to prioritize these stops to which ones can be added in next. So and yeah, appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
This is Michelle again. We welcome you back to the committee also to present, but also if we can be a resource to you and your project, please don't hesitate to reach out. We are all super enthusiasts of transit, so supportive of all your work that you're doing. So please don't hesitate. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, everybody.
Sure.
Thanks.
And so in the interest of time, I think we might table our next agenda item for next time. Sorry, Tanisha, I know you were probably excited to give a report, but it's already past 4 o'clock. So I'm gonna turn it over to Joe for subcommittees.
Michelle, thank you. This is Joe. Thank you for walking us through those presentations. And yeah, we definitely want to give Tanisha the time due for her, for next time, because we appreciate all the valuable information she provides on their project. Next was subcommittees. We didn't receive any notice in advance of anyone wanting to present from the committees. Does anyone have anything to say right now? Any comments right now?
Yes, this is Whitney Hill, chair of the Wayfinding Subcommittee. And I just want to say, especially after today's meeting and gathering new information, especially about the Wayfinding Pedway initiative that's unrolling, our next meeting will be calling soon. We were kind of waiting to just get a little bit more information about where to go with things. And so this gave us a lot of new information. So yes, we'll be meeting sometime in mid-November, early to mid-November. If anyone is interested in attending the Wayfinding subcommittee, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to talk with you about joining again, what that process looks like. Thank you.
Great, Whitney. Thank you for that information. And hopefully CDOT will be engaging us on that Pedway signage project. Next, we'll move on to the facilitators report. With that said, I'll turn it over to Amy Serpy.
I just have a few things, so I'll try and be as brief as possible. We did last Friday have a instruction bus out at Southside Occupational Academy. This is a CPS school that works with students with cognitive intellectual disabilities, and it was great. There were 3 different groups of students that got on the bus. They have been learning about taking the bus through their classroom, and I had done something with them previous to this visit, but they were really excited. And then the last group, so we did about maybe 30, we did like 90 kids. I mean, it was really great. And then the last group, they actually filmed a little video that they're going to use in their classroom for further instruction. So that was a really great event. Hoping that we could do, CTA can do more of those. Announcement, the 7,000 series rail car awareness event is going to happen September 23rd. We are going to have the 7,000 car out at the Kimball station, which is the last station going northbound on the Brown line. From 10 a.m. until 1 p.m., I'll be sending out a flyer and people can, get on it. You guys, you wanted to see some of the new signage, hear the new sounds, all of that. So we are very lucky with Grant Macy and Robert Kilbaugh. One of them or both of them may be available to help and kind of do a show and tell. But that was something that this committee really wanted to see. So we're kind of happy for that's going to happen.
Hey, Amy, this
yes.
is Joe. I'll try to, just a quick interruption. It's October 23rd. I think you said September.
Did I really? Oops.
Yeah.
It is October. Yeah, we're done with September, I guess. Sorry, October 23rd. I think I had September on the brain for some reason. So October 23rd, Saturday, I will be sending out a flyer before the end of the week. So you can, and I will share it with the whole disability list that we have. If you know people that want to come. Again, it's sort of that open event like we did for the bus, where you come when you can come between those hours, and you can get on and you can look around and you can practice using the securement and all of that. Next meeting in January, Michelle and Bridget, sadly, it'll be your last meeting. So I just want
Amy, I know you said Saturday the 23rd, but where?
Kimball. I said Kimball, the Brown line, end of the line, Kimball northbound, last stop. It is an accessible station, and there's like an extra track. That's why we use that, because there's a track that isn't operational, so we can actually put the cars there for viewing. Okay. So again, Michelle and Bridget, that's going to be your last meeting. Sorry about that. But thank you. And then next year's meetings, there was a thing sent out, are going to be January 10th. And then in April, July, and October, it is the 11th. Okay, all of those dates are the same, 11th, 11th, 11th. So easy to remember. And then of a personal announcement, this is my last meeting. I am retiring at the end of the month. Yay. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing some other ventures that I got going. Actually, my last day is Halloween, which I kind of think is kind of appropriate. Anyway.
Oh, congratulations, Amy.
Thank you. I'd like to thank, though, especially Joe and Michelle and all the committee members for the last few years. You guys have done a great job, but also we've had some really dynamic former chairmen, including Angela Davis, Melissa Fuller, Dorel Smith, and Steve Histalis, our former chairs, and there's a lot of other people that served on this committee. Special thanks to Mike Conley for all of his guidance and help as we've gone through this. April Morgan of the chairman's office and the board office, and Adrian Brown and Greg Longini, who you guys never see, but are really helpful in getting all of information posted, etc. So, and all of the staff that have consistently done reports whenever they've been asked to do them, and they've come up with some fabulous presentations, like we saw today with our elevator presentation, our customer service, our, all of the different things that have been presented. So just, I will still be one of those YouTubers now, so I will be keeping tabs on you guys, but just not zooming. So just thank you so much for everything you've done for this committee. It's appreciated. I'm done.
Well,
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. Boy, that was one update I wasn't expecting to hear.
Right.
Well, on a professional level, and as far as being chair of this advisory committee, I want to thank you for all of your hard work and dedication over the years with CTA to the cause, because this transportation is the key to independence for people with disabilities.
Absolutely.
On a personal note, I definitely have always considered you as a good friend, Amy, ever since our early days back in the mid-90s at MOPD. So good luck. Good luck with all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much. I have your number, so you know.
Okay, so contact me anytime.
Okay.
So, Amy, so who will be facilitating the meetings then?
You were going to ask. I have no clue.
Okay.
So I would assume that moving forward, CTA is going to be making some decisions. I have no idea what those decisions are. I have not seen anything posted in terms of a job. I'm sure they will. So I'm sure you will receive updates. I'm guessing Mike Conley will have input into this whole process.
Yeah, and this is Mike Conley. If I can, I'll just say, we don't know yet, Doreen. So in the meantime, you can assume you'll see me and potentially Elsa Gutierrez, who gave the ridership report today.
Oh, okay, great.
So we'll be trying to fill in and fill those shoes of Amy's, but those are big shoes to fill. And I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to say thank you to Amy for the huge amount of work and the understanding that she brings to this committee and to her job. I will miss her so much, and we'll all miss her, but we'll go on and we'll be working with you guys. So thanks again, Amy, for all of your time and everything.
You're welcome.
This is Joe.
Yeah,
I second
thank you.
everything that Mike just said. Moving on, is there any old business anyone wants to raise?
Nope.
If not, any new business, meaning something that you might want to discuss for the first quarter 2022?
Nope.
This is Whitney with Michelle stepping down. How will that work? And especially then with Amy not being there, two amazing forces that we have, on our team. How will that how will that look at the beginning of the year moving forward?
I would tend to think that the chairman's office will be selecting a new, vice chair. And I know Joe's got another year as chairman. I'm just assuming this. I would also say that if somebody on this committee is interested in fulfilling that, if by the end of the month, you could send it to me. I will be sure to send it on to both Mike Conley and the chairman's office. So if somebody has that burning desire to be considered for a vice chairmanship, that'd be great. Other than that, I would assume that those kinds of things will be handled at the chairman's office because they do all of the appointments. So new members, etc. So after January, there will also be obviously a couple of, new spots for new members, etc. So I think everything will fall into place.
Awesome, thank you. And then second question is, the wayfinding subcommittee has relied on you so much, Amy, with helping facilitate the meetings, and your presence with the meetings definitely, and your input has really helped us. And so I was wondering two things. If you're ever, if you're ever interested to join our wayfinding subcommittee, if that's something that you can do, we'll definitely be open to that. And then two, for the subcommittees moving forward and trying to meet and facilitate, who should we reach out to?
At this point, things are a little bit up in the air. I'll talk with Mike, and I'm sure we'll come up with a plan. And I can forward that information to the committee in terms of who would be the person that people can reach out to for these kinds of questions. And as far as me continuing with the wayfinding committee, I don't know if there's anything ethically that I can and can't do. I know there are some kind of rules with when you leave an organization. I don't know if there's any specific rules about being on a committee or not on a committee. So I would have to, I will defer to my ethics officer and see what I can and cannot do in terms of moving forward. So we can talk offline and I can let you know what's going on.
Thank you so much, Amy. I really appreciate that. We're definitely gonna miss you.
Yes, we are. And then Amy, you said regarding the 7,000 car series, the thing at Kimball on the 23rd, you're going to be sending out a notice to all the members about that?
Yes, and the disability list that I have. So if you can, and when I send this out, feel free to forward it, tell your friends, anybody can, and it's not, well, it is for people with disabilities because we, this came out of this committee's request. It is not just for someone with a disability. Like, we're not going to kick somebody out if they don't have a disability. We're not going to be checking when you come. So if you know people that want to see the cars up close and personal, they are more than welcome to come. It's between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be there. So I'll see you guys.
Okay.
This is Joe. So finally, I'll turn it over to Michelle for the meeting adjournment process.
Thanks, Joe. This is Michelle, our favorite part of the day, guys. Everyone, so adjournment, here we go. So just one quick reminder, our next meeting is Monday, January 10th, 2022. Crazy to say that. And at this time, probably still going to be virtual and Zoom until further notice, or at the CTA headquarters, but probably, virtually is the way to go. And I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn. This is Doreen.
All right. Doreen makes a motion, and anyone ask for a second?
This is Mary. I'll second that.
Thanks, Mary, for seconding. And everyone in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, no opposed, and the meeting ends now at 4:21 p.m. Thank you so much for your patience, everyone, and being on the meeting. We appreciate it and everyone's time. So see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.